There we go. Yeah, that would definitely for sure help. But what I did say before I turned my microphone on is we've got to stop meeting like this. But if you do want to keep meeting like this, like and subscribe. Um, if you read the title, saw the thumbnail, I need to do some CDL practice test. And I figured, why not do that on stream? You can either watch me succeed or you can watch me fail. I went to the DPS office yesterday and I got the ball rolling for my Class B school bus application. And Monday, I went to a doctor slash chiropractor and to get my medical card. And in the process, I learned that he was not going to be in for the rest of this week. He was only there Monday and Friday. So he wouldn't be able to actually give me the medical card until Friday. My appointment was Thursday. He didn't think it was necessary to tell me that before we began the entire process. And the reason that that is an issue, other than just incompetence, is at the end of my exam, he gave me a piece of paper and was like, get your psychiatrist to sign this saying it's okay to drive on ADHD meds, which in my brain, it's more like, is it safe to drive without them? But that's whatever, okay? My psychiatrist doesn't work on Mondays or Fridays. See where this is going? So that dude straight up could have potentially screwed me so freaking hard. It's unreal how bad he could have screwed me. I got my medical card today, and yesterday at the DPS, I learned something interesting. Uh, School bus drivers don't need medical cards. So I was super stressed about the whole situation because I scheduled the DPS appointment like 4 months ago. That's how long the wait is, especially for like CDL stuff. I think whenever I went to get my driver's license earlier this year, it was just like a month, which sucks, but it's not 4 months. So I was stressed, like, oh my God, if I have to schedule another appointment for 4 months from now and I can't get in there until 2026, 2025 will officially be a huge waste of a year. Like, straight up. Bus drivers don't need medical cards. I didn't know that. I did some looking at the DOT website, the DPS DOT Texas hub, I guess you could call it, website. And on the website, it said, what do you need for your CDL application? It didn't say your Class A or Class B. It just said CDL application. And it said, make sure you bring your medical card. And I haven't had a medical card since 2020. But I thought, oh, yeah, big deal. I'll go get a medical card. And the exam costs $95. And I don't really have a source of income right now, so that was a big expenditure. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's a lot of money in any situation, but especially right now, it was like a lot for me. And I mean, I paid the money, so I went ahead down there to the doctor office again today, this morning, and I got my medical card just so I could have it. Because what if I want to upgrade to a Class A? I'll have the medical certificate for that. There I am. Just getting the chat pulled up. Um, so I didn't need the medical card, thankfully, thank God, but I have it now, okay? And when I was at the DPS station yesterday, I was talking to the person that was handling my stuff, and I told them, I gave them the lowdown on my situation, and he told me, he's like, you don't need a medical card to become a school bus driver. Of all the people, like seriously, of all the people I would expect to need a medical card. It looks like I'm blowing the doors off audio wise. Let's see. Check, 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 check. Okay, that's a little bit better, I think. Yeah. Sorry to the people here that have had me yelling at them. I wasn't trying to do that. My OBS was just cranked up for one of these mics, but I'm using this one, which is a different mic. So I didn't think to readjust the OBS. So hopefully we're good now on that front. So yeah, you don't need a medical card to become a school bus driver. And really, seriously, in my brain, it's like that should be the person that needs it the most. You know what I'm saying? But I guess not. Thankfully, because if I didn't have my medical card, I would have had to schedule a different appointment. And who knows? It probably would have been in 2026. That first doctor that I got my medical card from this morning, he potentially screwed me hard. Like, unbelievably hard. As soon as they get done with the exam and they give you your paperwork, like in my case, that I needed to get my other doctor to sign, they enter you into the DOT database as medical card pending. Because Tuesday, I went to a different doctor, an urgent care doctor, and I paid the $95 again, which I really didn't freaking have, but I thought I had to. I didn't really think I had a choice. And I brought the paperwork that they gave me at the first doctor because just in case it mattered. And it did, so I'm glad I brought it. When the examiner came into the examination room, she was holding the piece of paper like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And I gave her the lowdown, and I told her that my psychiatrist is working today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So if I'm able to get whatever you give me signed, then I'll be able to get my medical card before my appointment. Unfortunately, like I said, the first doctor had already put me in the database. So if she, the second doctor, were to perform an examination and try to re-enter me into the database, I would have I would have been flagged as doctor shopping. The second doctor recognized what a weird situation I was in, and she told me, go back to the front desk and we will refund you. I was like, thank you. Like, oh my God, thank you. And she told me, what you gotta do, you just gotta wait. You gotta get this signed and bring it to the other doctor. And I got it signed on Wednesday. Because, like I said, my psychiatrist doesn't work Mondays or Fridays, and she takes everything in the order it comes in. So I just had to hope that my new examination, she would get her hands on the paperwork before Thursday afternoon. My appointment was in the afternoon for the DPS. And thankfully, she did refund me. And she also printed out a piece of paper that showed me in the DOT database with the pending medical card. So I brought that with me to DPS just in case I did need that medical card. I could show them, even though it's in their system, but I would have my due diligence to show them that, hey, can I get a flex, like come back tomorrow or something of that nature? And fortunately, I didn't need to rely on that. So I took my first test yesterday. I got the application submitted and I got my medical card today. And thankfully for the CDL test, you don't have to schedule appointments for it. You just go down there and take tests. They recognize that it would be kind of ludicrous to have to schedule appointments for individual tests. And the one I went to was in Garland, and it is called the CDL Mega Center. So, that's what they do there. Might have been in Mesquite, not Garland. I can't remember. It was towards Dallas, which is always a fun drive, you know. If you don't know, it's a fun drive. You should do it sometime. So, anyways, I was able to actually get what I needed done at DPS, and I was able to take my first test yesterday. If you can pass them all in one day, you can do it all in one day. I didn't pass the first test, so the test I failed was a Texas general commercial knowledge test. I got a CDL in 2014 or 13, a Class A. That didn't exist. That test was not part of anything. I never had to take it because it didn't exist. So whenever I was going down there, I had it in my head that I'd have to do the general knowledge test like I did last time, air brakes, passenger, and school bus, like those 4 tests. I wasn't aware of the specific Texas test because, like I said, and I feel very confident that I can pass the usual general knowledge exam just fine. Same goes for air brakes. I passed them before. That's how I got my Class A. Along with combination vehicles, this is for Class A. I'm not going to do it for Class B. But I also had to pass the combination vehicles, and then later I went and got hazmat and tanker for a different company I worked for. I passed all of those tests my first try. So I thought, and I still think I'll pass those again my first try. I was caught off guard by the Texas general knowledge test. Because Texas is just so freaking special, man, that we gotta have our own special general knowledge test. Freaking Texas, dude, I swear to God. Which I have heard over the past 5 or so years, people have told me, hey, the test to get your CDL, it's gotten harder. But whenever they would talk about it, they would tell me that you have to do a pre-trip inspection before you begin the drive test. And I did those for 8 years. So I know how to do them. I still will have to do some refresher stuff just to make sure I don't fail that as well. But it's not something I'm unfamiliar with, so I have confidence in myself in that regard. It was this Texas general knowledge test. It's like, where'd that come from? I don't know, but it's there. Um, something else. Something else. What was it? Oh yeah, I could have gone back and taken the test again today, but I'm going to wait until Monday so I can refamiliarize myself with everything, specifically the Texas general knowledge. And I can go down there Monday morning, bright and early, and hopefully by the end of Monday, I'll have my permit. And then the place I'm getting a job, they told me just get a permit and you're hired. So like, okay, that's what I'm doing. I didn't expect it to take this long. I didn't know that the wait time for the DPS would be 4 months because everything I've done in the last 5 years has been for Class C license, not Class A or B. I really should have taken that into account. I'm only human after all, though, y'all. Uh, um, 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 I'm not sure where I'll take the Texas General Knowledge Exam practice test, but the CDL overview test site, well, it has lots of stuff on it that I can refamiliarize myself with. When I knew I was going to fail the Texas General Knowledge test, was a question popped up, and it's like, how many trailers is a truck allowed to haul? And I was like, oh, I know, 3. Not in Texas. Not in Texas. So I answered like you would on the general knowledge test, 3, and I got it wrong. And that's when I realized, oh boy, this isn't general knowledge, this is Texas general knowledge. This freaking state, man. I swear to God, this state. But now I know, and now that I know, I have no doubt that I'll be able to pass it especially since I have all weekend to study for it. So we should be good there. I hope. I hope and I pray. But I figured do some practice on stream just for funsies. I got my first CDL. I guess it would have been 11 years ago at this point. So it's not like I've kept up with the general knowledge and stuff. So maybe I'll fail miserably at that on here, on the practice. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. But I thought it'd be fun to do the hazmat test because, like I said, I used to have a hazmat license. That was my bread and butter. So let's see how much I forgot. Free hazmat practice test. Pass your CDL hazmat endorsement exam. Not your state? Yeah, we're in Texas. I'm in Texas. Free Texas CDL Hazmat Practice Test 2025 Texas. I don't know why my mouth decided to start salivating when I hit start streaming, but it did. How do you feel about your chances of passing the hazmat endorsement exam? Not very well. Take our free Texas CDL hazmat practice test to see just how ready you are for this difficult endorsement test. I do remember when I got my hazmat, it was for sure the most difficult test out of all of the ones I did. Even the driving exam, it was harder than that. Man, I'm sorry, guys. Man, let's just go ahead and do it. 30 questions. What should you avoid doing near hazardous material in the explosive, flammable, or oxidizer class? Braking firmly, freeway driving, downgrade smoking. Smoking. Correct. You should never smoke around explosive, flammable gas, flammable liquids, flammable solids, or oxidizers. This could lead to an explosion. All right, we're doing good so far. If there is a hazardous substance spill, the Department of Transportation and EPA will need a report. You can find a list of these substances in. You used to have a book. If you had hazmat, you had to have this little book. List of hazardous substance and reportable quantities. Hazardous materials table. List of marine populations. hazardous material index. I think it was that index. Nope. It was list of hazardous substances and reportable quantities. I thought that was in the hazardous material index. Thank God I'm not going for my hazmat. Special training to be able to drive vehicles transporting radioactive material must be provided by the courier, the driver's employer, the driver, the shipper. Let's see. Special training to be able to drive vehicles transporting radioactive materials must be provided by the driver's employer, right? I mean, the carrier, you're not going to train yourself, at least not in the eyes of the law. I'm pretty sure it's the driver's employer. That would be their responsibility to make sure their employees have proper training to transport materials that they specializing in transporting. I think it's going to be B. Correct. Okay. Any special training required to drive radioactive materials must be provided by the driver's employer or designated representative. Which of the following cannot be described by using a hazardous class or ID? Oxygen, poison, non-hazardous materials, radioactive. It's the non-hazardous. I think the oxygen on here is meant to, like, not trying to trip you up, like make you fail. Or maybe, I don't know, Texas is weird. But I think some people would see that and be like, I'm breathing oxygen right now. I got oxygen in my lungs. Am I hazardous? Pure oxygen is inflammable, which means flammable. I know, Dr. Nick, it's a wild country. But let's go non-hazardous material. Correct. The only things allowed to be described using hazardous class or ID number are actual hazardous materials. That makes sense. Hazardous materials cannot be described in such manners. That makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't want a truck full of tortillas to say radioactive. That would probably freak people out. Which document must the carrier provide to each driver who is transporting Division 11, 12, or 13 explosives? I want to say it's the FMCSR. Correct. I'm doing pretty good. That's the book I was talking about. Along with written instructions on what to do if the driver is delayed or in an accident. Each carrier must provide each driver with FMCSR Part 397 in order for them to transport Division 11, 12, or 13 explosives. I don't think I ever did explosives. I did lots of stuff that would explode eventually. I did a lot of work for Raytheon, and I would do all the Tomahawk missiles and stuff. I think that's what they were called. But I would transport them before they had any kind of explosives installed. one of the most grim and one of the most cool loads I ever transported in my Class A days was for Raytheon, and they really liked me for some reason. I don't I don't know, maybe you can tell me why. But they would give me a lot of the top, I want to say top secret, but I don't know. Like, you had to do classes or whatever to get that certification from Raytheon, not like the DPS, to transport those kinds of materials, like secretive, top secret, whatever. And yeah, one of the, like, it's grim because, well, you'll probably know why. It was a gold plated freaking missile. And I took a 53-foot trailer to go pick it up. So whenever they put a crate, one crate in my truck, I was like, what the hell? And, they're like, do you know what this is? I was like, no. And they're like, this is a gold plated missile, dude. Uh, okay. And it was to celebrate something like 1 million missiles dropped or sold or something. So you see where the grim nature comes from. But at the same time, it's pretty cool that I got to transport a gold plated missile. I mean, I'm not like proud of it. That's like one of the reasons I quit working for Raytheon, because I would haul uh, a a trailer with like 40,000 pounds of collars or fins or whatever, and then you would hear in the news, we just bombed whatever, and it's like, and I did it for a really long time. So at a certain point, you have to assume that some of the things you were transporting, you see what I'm saying, guys? And I get the need for war sometimes, but for the most part, I am a pacifist. Like, no war is a good war. It's just war in general is bad. Like, I've talked to people that get real bent out of shape about the Israel Gaza conflict, and you know, I've talked to people on both sides of that want me to say Israel is justified or Israel is genociding the Palestinians. My response, my response will always be, whether it be Israel Palestine or Ukraine Russia, is war is bad. I don't want war to happen. I don't care who's on what side. Like, I understand that Ukraine needs to defend their borders. That makes sense. I get that. But if it were up to me, Russia wouldn't have invaded, and they wouldn't have had to do that, because war is bad, guys. I know, I know, I know, I know. Trust me. In order to transport cylinders full of compressed gas, they need to be stored in a way that they are able to roll freely. Hell yeah, that comes in real handy at the weigh station. On an unleveled surface, held upright, packed tightly, held upright. Damn. Okay. I used to transport these. I would take a bunch of cylinders to a place in Pennsylvania, Air Liquide, and then I'd pick up missiles and come back to Dallas. Oh, yeah. I was living the good life. If your vehicle doesn't have necessary racks to keep the cylinders in the right position, be sure they are on a flat floor. Position them so they are held upright. They can be in the hazardous horizontal position if the relief valve is in the vapor space. I'm glad that wasn't a question because I would have had no idea. I'm assuming that means empty, but I don't know. It's important to always display a blank hazard placard, even for small amounts of the material. Liquid, wide load, oversized, poison inhalation. Poison inhalation, right? Correct? The inhalation hazard appears on the shipping paper, so you must display a poison inhalation hazard or poisonous gas hazard placard on your vehicle, even if it's just a small amount. Never store these materials within the cab of your vehicle. You don't have to tell me that twice, buddy. If you are carrying explosives in your cargo, do not park within blank feet of an open fire. I don't actually know, but I'm going to say 300 feet. Huzzah! If you are transporting Division 1112 or 13 explosives, you cannot park within 300 feet of bridges, tunnels, buildings, places where people gather, or an open fire. The only exception is short periods of time necessary for vehicle operation necessary. I guess that's if you're driving past a freaking burning building, hey, you know. But it did say park. I guess a stop sign, but that's still not parking. That's just stopping. You should never drive a placard vehicle near a open fire unless the fire is contained. Well, that's not an open fire now, is it? You can pass without stopping. There are no people around. You are driving more than 30 miles per hour. I think it's going to be B, because A is not a open fire, it's a contained fire. C, well, if there's an open flame, I would hope that there's EMS and the firefighters. or you're driving more than 30 miles per hour. No, that wouldn't be it either, because there could be a traffic cop out there controlling the flow of traffic, and sometimes you can't go more than 20 miles an hour in those situations, or more than 30 miles per hour in those situations. So let's go with B. You can pass without stopping. But boom, but boom, but boom. Oh, yeah. If your vehicle has a placard, avoid heavily populated areas, tunnels, crowded streets, and alleys. And don't drive your truck down an alley, just straight up in any conditions. Just don't do that. I mean, I've done it, but I didn't really have a choice. But that's neither here nor there. Even more, never drive your vehicle near an open fire unless you can do so safely without stopping. Makes sense. A shipper must certify that all packages containing hazardous material have been prepared according to HMR rules. Hazardous material resources? I would think HMR is hazardous material rules. Unless it's like RIP in peace. Have you ever seen that? Except when the shipper is shipping internationally. No, that's when you must do more shipping over state lines. You don't even want to get into interstate commerce rules. Oh my God. Shipping materials that are non-flammable, a private carrier. A shipper must certify that all packages containing hazardous materials have been prepared according to HMR rules, except when the shipper is I feel like you should have to I feel like it shouldn't matter in any of these situations, but it's definitely either C or D. But everyone's a private carrier. Like if you work for a company, that's a private carrier. It doesn't matter if you are a one man operation or if you work for one of the big companies like Swift. That's still a private carrier. The only non private carriers would be the federal government, correct? So I'm going to go with C, but I'm not 100% on this one. Private carrier, okay. Private carriers are the only ones exempt from certifying that all packages have been prepared according to the HMR rules, and only if the package is provided by the carrier. Hmm. I don't really understand that one. I'm going to be honest. I thought it would matter on all of these. A shipper must certify that all packages containing hazardous material have been prepared according to HMR rules, except when the shipper is a private carrier. I must be misunderstanding what this means. I'll have to remember this one and do research on it because I don't I don't understand that one. Food for animals and humans should never be loaded in the same vehicle as blank materials. Flammable, corrosive, poisonous, oxygen. I mean, it seems like the obvious answer would be poisonous. I didn't get the last one either, so let's see. Let's see. Correct. Okay, that's good. That's a common sense one. All Class 2 materials labeled as poison or poison inhalation hazard can never be loaded in the same vehicle as food material, nor the cab or sleep. Oh, the sleeper. Okay. Yeah, sleep of the vehicle. I mean, I always associate cabin sleeper as being like the same thing, but I do see what it's saying. And yeah, probably don't want that in your cab or sleeper. But that's just me, you know? I'm a bit weird like that. What amount of chlorine in your cargo would require you to stop at a railroad track? More than 1 ounce, more than 1 pound, more than 10 pounds, any amount. So I know that for hazardous materials, for it to require a placard, it has to be over 2,000 pounds or more than a ton. So if you were transporting one skid of 1,000 pounds, it might have been 800 pounds, but just for this argument, if you were transporting one skid with 1,000 pounds of hazardous materials, as long as that was the only thing on the truck or trailer that is a hazardous material, you don't have to placard. If you have 1,000 pounds of bleach and 1,000 pounds of ammonia, you got to placard up because they can combine and create a poison inhalation. But chlorine, I know chlorine is a pretty aggressive chemical. I'm going to say 1 pound because 1 pound can mess you up. But it may be any amount. But I'm going to choose 1 pound. 1 ounce, I believe, would be not enough. 1 pound is 16 ounces. Let's see. Any amount. Okay. If you are carrying any amount of chlorine, have a placarded vehicle, or are driving a tank vehicle used to carry hazardous material, you must stop before a railroad crossing. Be sure to stop 10 to 50 feet before the nearest rail. Okay, that makes sense. Because I know hazardous materials, if you got placards on your truck, you got to stop at every rail crossing, just across the board. It doesn't matter if it's active, it doesn't even matter if it's been decommissioned 100 years ago. It is still a crossing, and you must stop. So, with the chlorine, you wouldn't have like under 2,000 pounds, you wouldn't have to placard your truck, but I guess you still have to stop at the railroad track. I wonder if you need a placard for any amount of chlorine, because how else would they be aware that you have it in your trailer? Unless you just feel particularly honest that day, I guess. Do you know why I pulled you over? Because I have chlorine in my trailer, like 1,999 pounds of it. No, I didn't know that. Your blinker is out, but go ahead and get out the vehicle. Let's do this thing. Any vehicle carrying hazardous material must have blank placards placed in the designated positions around the truck. Vehicle. 4, 4, 4. I remember that one. I never got in trouble, thank God, because I always remembered to do it. $10,000. $10,000 per placard that you don't put up. That's the fine. So let's say your truck needs 5 plaques and you put 5 on the right side, 5 on the left side, and 5 on the back. But you forget to put them on the front of the trailer. You just got a $50,000 fine, and the company is not going to pay that for you. So, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. If your vehicle carrying hazardous material placards needs to be placed on each side, the front, the rear, this is a total of 4. Oh, wow. There. While transporting hazardous materials, you learn that one of your tires has a leak. You should drive to the next town, make it their problem. I like it. I like it. Call emergency services. No, that's what babies do. Stop, stop safely. Oh, and fix it. Avoid braking. How are you going to discover the tire if you're driving? Stop safely and fix it. Well, I've seen the trucks and trailers that have the system where the tires are hooked into the ABS and they'll fill to the proper pressure automatically. I never drove one of those trucks or trailers. Everything I did was like old school. Like old school. So I want to say stop safely and fix it. That should be it, right? Correct. If your tire gets a leak, you shouldn't drive on it. That's that's yeah. Stop as quickly and safely as you can so that you can fix the problem before continuing on your route. I don't know, that seems pretty fair. Whoever is attending a placarded vehicle must meet the following requirements: be in the sleeper or berth. That's true. I know that's one. Be able to move the vehicle if needed. That's why you have to be in the. Have a functioning cell phone. They didn't have that in the 90s. It's not like we just started making within 200 feet of the vehicle. I want to say it's within 200 feet of the vehicle because they're not going to make the rules so that you can't be a solo driver transporting hazardous material. And if the A was the correct answer, that would mean you're not allowed to go in the truck stop. You're not allowed to go eat dinner. You're not allowed to go poop or take a shower. So I want to say it's D. No. What? It was B. I thought that would fall within the 200 feet of the vehicle. Hmm. In order to attend a placarded vehicle, the person must be awake in the vehicle and not in the sleeper or berth. Or they must be within 100 feet of the vehicle. They must be aware of the materials being transported and they need to know what to do in case of emergency, including how to move the vehicle if needed. Hmm. Hmm. I would have to do some research on what they mean by attended there, attending. Because I think it would just mean you're, you're transporting it, like you're the driver. But I don't know. This one doesn't make much sense to me either. What does attending mean? That's the question. Because solo drivers transport hazardous materials. I did it every day for like 6 years. Hmm. What does attend mean in this context? To attend a placarded vehicle, the following individuals are typically allowed. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for what it means. Specifically, what it means. To attend a placarded vehicle means to be present and responsible for a vehicle marked with hazardous materials. It's kind of what I thought it meant. The vehicle must be attended by the driver or a qualified representative at all times. I guess when I would go in the truck stop after parking for the night, that was illegal. I mean, that's what it's saying, right? The vehicle must be attended when it is on public streets, highways, or shoulders. Maybe that's what makes the difference. Since a truck parking lot would be private property, that might be the difference there. You know what? I think it is. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and it makes sense. Because sometimes there are emergencies on public roads, and you cannot leave the truck like that has hazardous materials in it. So actually, I take it back. I get it now. That last one does make sense. I was not considering that the truck parking lot is private property. And for the most part, you're allowed to do what you do on private property. And let's say there is an emergency, like the truck driver has a heart attack while going down the road, but is able to pull over and call an ambulance. You would need to make sure that there is someone on the scene that could move that truck in the case of an emergency before they could take you to the hospital. Is that what it means? I think that's what it's talking about. The item description of product has an X or a RQ right before the shipping description. This indicates the material is Oversized, overweight, hazardous, international. I think maybe international. Hmm. I think the X in the RQ might, maybe the RQ is required, and then you read the description and it will tell you what the materials needed or placards needed. Hazardous or international? Hold on, I'm gonna get some VOLs. No, I didn't save any of them. Let let's say hazardous, but I will acknowledge that it might mean. I just noticed I was upside down. It might mean international, but I'm going to choose hazardous. All right, correct. When you enter materials onto your shipping label, you should place an X or an RQ before the shipping description. If it's hazardous material, only use the RQ. If a reported quantity needs to be identified. So that's what I was saying about the weight of how much of the material you're transporting is. Unless there are other hazardous materials that they could mix together. I remember reading something a long time ago. I can't remember details, but it was about why you shouldn't drive hazardous materials in a tunnel because that happened and their truck caught on fire in a tunnel and I think like 200 people died. But I could be so wrong there. So like don't quote me on that. If your vehicle is placarded and has dual tires, you must check your tires at the beginning of each trip and 100 miles, 150, 300 each time the vehicle is parked. It's either B or D. You gotta check the tires every time the vehicle is parked, regardless of the cargo. That's called a pre and post trip inspection. And you should be checking your tires when you stop to get fuel or use the bathroom. That is something you always need to be on top of. So I'm going to go 150 miles, but this one I'm not super confident about. Nope, each time the vehicle is parked. I guess that really should have been the obvious answer, but I thought maybe there was more rules for the placarded vehicle. It's important to make sure your tires are properly inflated. Check them at the beginning of every trip, as well as each time the vehicle is parked, which I guess that would be at the end of the day whenever you start your 10-hour break. When entering information into the description section of your shipping paper, which order should the information appear in? Man, I'm not the shipper. Ask the shippers. I'm just the dude in the drive-in. ID numbers, proper shipping name, hazardous class, and packing group. Like the hazardous should be at the top. That's the most important thing. Maybe the proper shipping name? No. And you want the hazard class and then the ID numbers associated with those classes. I'm going to go D. I'm pretty sure it's D. Not super confident though. Nope. ID number, proper shipping name, hazardous class, and packaging group. I guess really the ID number, if you know what's up, you would know that the ID number is corresponding to the hazardous class. The basic description should list the ID number, proper shipping name, the hazard class or division, and the packaging group in that order. If the packaging group is typo, I get that one. That was a mulligan. You got it wrong. If the packing group is Roman numerals, you can put PG in front of it. Hazardous materials have begun spilling from your vehicle. You should move your vehicle away from the road, away from any downgrades, which is like going downhill or a mountain, no more than safety requires, into the nearest town. Heck yeah. I would say no more than safety requires, because if it's leaking out of the vehicle, you don't want to spread it too much. I'm going to go C. Yeah, okay, good. I was two wrong in a row, so I'm glad I got one. When hazardous material spills from your vehicle, safety should be the primary concern. Do not move your vehicle if you can't do it without endangering yourself or others. And if you must move it, only move it no more than safety requires you to. Ugh. I think this hat is cutting off the circulation to my brain. Wait, no, I got the last one right. Who is responsible for putting hazard warning labels on packages, providing proper shipping papers, emergency response information, and proper placards? the receiver, the shipper, the manufacturer, the driver. The driver is certainly not responsible for putting labels on the packages. They're responsible for putting placards on the truck and trailer. The manufacturer, the shipper, the receiver. Who is responsible for putting hazard warning label on packages, providing proper shipping paper, emergency response information, and proper placards? I remember the shipper was always supposed to have plaques that you could ask for. They rarely ever had any plaques. So you would have to just take what you had and make it work until you got to a truck stop where they sell all the placards in the world. The manufacturer, do they ship? It has to go from the people that made it to wherever. So it, like, you wanna you wanna say the shipper, but it has to get to the shipper. So the manufacturer would need to properly label it as part of the manufacturing process, right? I think it's C, but it might be B. And I swear to God, if it's D, I feel bad for them truckers. I think it's C. No, it's the shipper. Well, I guess the manufacturer could be the shipper. The shipper is responsible for the warning labels on packages, proper shipping papers, emergency response information, and placards. This helps communicate the hazard to the shipper, carrier, and driver. Wait a minute. Hold on. The shipper is warning themselves? You see what I'm saying? The shipper is responsible for warning labels. This helps communicate the hazard to the shipper. The shipper is warning themselves? I don't know about that, guys. Look, I've been wrong on this test, and I totally accepted it and came to a point of understanding why I was wrong. That's like the most important thing you can do when you're learning anything. It's like, okay, I was wrong, but let me find out why I'm wrong so I can reach a point of understanding. This feels like a contradiction because you're saying the shipper is responsible for warning the shipper. I don't accept these results. I believe the manufacturer is responsible for labeling everything because they made it. And how is it going to get to the shipper without being properly labeled? You see what I'm saying? I think this one's wrong. The reason there are hazardous materials regulations is to ensure the safety of drivers and equipment, mostly the equipment, to contain the material and to provide necessary payments, limit the transportation of hazardous materials. That makes no sense. Communicate the risk. I believe that's it. Explain the use of the materials? I don't know about that. I'm going to go with communicate the risk. Correct. The reason we have so many hazardous materials regulations is to ensure the driver and equipment are safe to contain the material properly and to communicate the risk to the shipper, driver, and carrier. There we go again. The shipper warns themselves. I think the manufacturer, that right there is why the manufacturer has to put the labels on it so that it can get to the shipper. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. You have been assigned to transport hazardous materials over a route you are not familiar with. You should check the route and permits needed. You should check the route and permits needed. True? This isn't a true-false question, though. When you cross the state line, oh, buddy, it's too late. It is too late once you've done that, okay? Once you've arrived, after you load the cargo, before you make the trip. I made a mistake in Colorado once. Thank God a cop didn't see me. There's a route going, I know it's like up around Denver, and it's about an 80-mile corridor that you can take, like truckers, or just, normal four-wheelers, and it cuts off a pretty good bit of time if you were to try to stick to the major highways and the interstate. There's a block of that corridor that is no hazardous material allowed on that route. I didn't know that. That's on me. That is 100% on me. I should have examined the route to make sure that it was safe and that I wouldn't be breaking any rules or laws. Thankfully, I learned that after the fact and not during. So I didn't get in any trouble, thank God. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble, like for real. That's one of my biggest mistakes I made out on the road. And thankfully I didn't get in trouble. That doesn't take away from it being a major mistake I made. You have been assigned to transport, oh yeah, before you take the trip. Correct. Some states and counties require special permits, yeah, to transport hazardous materials through them. Before the trip, check your route, and ask the dispatcher about any restrictions or required permits you might need. Wouldn't that be nice? If you are transporting explosives or other flammable materials, you should never use flares to alert other vehicles of your presence. If you have to pull over, what should you use instead? Reflective triangles. Correct. If you break down or have to pull to the side of the road, you need to alert other drivers to your presence. However, if you have flammable materials, you do not need you do not want to use flare. Instead, use the reflective triangles or red electric lights. Every truck has to have those reflective triangles on it. Like if you're getting a inspection, like a DOT inspection, and you don't have those triangles, you're going to get shut down on the spot. You're getting shut down. Ask me how I know. No, that I've been shut down before, but not because of that. In the event of an emergency while transporting hazardous material, you should leave the shipping paper in the driver's seat. Yes. Head downwind. No. Warn others that there is danger. That's why you put the shipping paper in the driver's seat. Call your employer. It's an emergency. You might be at the hospital and you didn't have time to grab your phone. It's A. Leave the shipping paper in the driver's seat. Correct? No. That's BS. I call BS. That's the warning. That is the warning. That is the warning. Leaving the paper in the driver's seat is the warning. Okay, next time I have an emergency while hauling transporting hazardous material, if there are any houses nearby, I will make sure I go knock on every door, every single door, while I'm having a heart attack. Hey guys, hey. Uh-uh. That's what the paper is for. The point is, you can see the truck, the trailer should be placarded. So they will already be aware that there is hazardous material in the truck. The BOL will have a more detail on it than the placards do. So that's why you leave it in the seat of the truck, so that if any emergency people need to know what exactly is in that trailer, they can look in the seat and see the BOL with all of the hazardous materials listed and in what quantities they're in the trailer. So that is the warning. That's the warning. I'm sorry I'm having such a big reaction here, but like it was drilled in my head. Like, even if you're just going in the truck stop, leave the BOL in the driver's seat. Because how am I supposed to let everyone at the freaking truck stop know I'm having an emergency and I need to go to the hospital? That doesn't make sense. The BOL being in the driver's seat is the warning. I'm sorry, but oh my God. By checking the transport index of some radioactive cargo, you will learn the cost of the materials? No. The manufacturer of the materials? I don't think so. The degree of control needed during transport? I'm not sure what you mean by that. The combined weight of the cargo? It's C, right? Yes. Okay. Finally, back on track with stuff that makes sense. Because radioactive cargo passes radiation into nearby packages, it needs more care when transporting. The transport index will tell you the degree of control needed during transport. Okay. Do you need a lead box? Do you need a Faraday box? I think that's what it's referring to. Like, it's not the degree of control as in, hey, don't go too fast. It's the degree of control as in, how are you going to mitigate the risk of the radiation coming off of the object? Before loading or unloading any explosive materials, you must disconnect any heaters and check the cargo space. I guess it means like space heaters you might have in your sleeper. Before loading or unloading any explosive materials, you must disconnect any heaters and check the cargo space. Yeah. Is this a true or false statement? Like, for sharp points that might damage cargo, and check the cargo space for sharp objects that might damage the cargo, for air conditioning that is running, to ensure the lining is metal, for dust and dirt which should be cleaned. So you're checking the cargo area. What are you looking for? You would know if the lining is metal. I mean, I think they just are. For air condition that is running in the cargo container, cargo space, the only air conditioning I know for a cargo space would be a Thermo King reefer. For dust and dirt, which should be cleaned. I never had to clean a trailer out to pick up any kind of hazardous material. The only time I would have to wash out the trailer was when I'm picking up open packages of food material, because cross contamination exists. It's like, what if the last thing you hauled was raw chicken and the next thing you haul is potatoes? You got to make sure that it's thoroughly cleaned to mitigate the risk of cross contamination. I'm going to say A, you're looking for sharp points that might damage the cargo, because having a bunch of, let's just say you're transporting fireworks, if a sharp object penetrates one of the packages, that could cause gunpowder to leak out of the package, and you don't want that. Like, I know this would be, I don't know how rare or how difficult this would be to happen, but let's say the truck gets unloaded and you nor the receiver noticed that one of the packages had become damaged and started leaking black powder on the floorboard of the truck. And then for some reason, you decided to throw a dance party in the trailer. So you're in the trailer stomping around, having a good time, and then you stomp in the wrong place. And guess what? You just lost your leg. And depending on how much powder it is, you might die. So I'm going to go with A. Correct. Okay. Before loading and unloading explosive materials, shut off the engine to your vehicle. Then make sure the cargo space heaters are off. The cargo space heaters? I've never had a trailer that had space heaters in the trailer. I've never even heard of that. Maybe the floral, like flower trucks, maybe they have heaters to simulate a day night cycle inside the trailer. Maybe. I've never done floral anything. Sharp points like nails or broken side panels that might damage the cargo. While transporting hazardous materials, you need to keep the shipping papers in certain places. When you are not behind the wheel, the paper should be in the side panel. In the glove box, nope. In the passenger seat, nope. In the driver door pouch, yep. Separate from emergency response information, no. What? In the driver door pouch. See, that's what the other one was. Like with the seat in the driver's seat. Be sure that you keep the shipping. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I'll read the explanation. Be sure you keep the shipping papers for hazardous materials clearly labeled on the top of your stack of papers. So yeah, it needs to be the most visible. If you are behind the wheel, it should be within your reach, which is not the glove box. I don't know if you've ever been in the cab of a 18-wheeler. It's pretty big. You're not going to be able to reach the glove box from the driver's seat. The materials and on top of the stack of papers, if you are behind the wheel, it should be within your reach. If you are not driving, keep it in the driver's side pouch or on the driver's seat. Be sure to keep it in the same location as your emergency response information. If your vehicle is placarded, you should stop blank feet before the nearest railroad crossing. 10 to 20. No? 15 to 50? Okay. It's a little more room than I. Okay. If your vehicle is placarded, carries any chlorine. You just have to stop, period, with any amount of chlorine. I learned that today. Or have cargo tank or has a cargo tank used for hazardous materials, you must stop before crossing railroad. Be sure you stop at least 15. Be sure to stop 15 to 50 feet before the nearest rail track. I would just think 50 feet is a little too far, but I guess not. You are carrying explosives in your cargo and you collide with another vehicle. Goodbye! You should get far away from the vehicle, direct traffic around the accident, turn your emergency hazard lights on, remove the explosives before separating the vehicles. I think you should direct traffic around the accident. Because what the heck are hazard lights going to do in that situation? That's what you do whenever you have a blowout. And once you're on the road, get away from the vehicle. That's not that, like, you took on the responsibility of transporting hazardous materials, and you did that knowing that you have hazardous materials. So at that point, you, like I said, you're taking responsibility for that. So if you were to try to get away from the vehicle, that's you disregarding your responsibility, which is bad. You shouldn't do that. So I'm going to say, and turning on your hazards, that's meaningless. Remove the explosives, that's more likely to result in an explosion. Direct people around it. Let's see. What? Remove the explosives before separating the vehicle. What? 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 I absolutely do not accept that answer. Remove the explosives? You, the driver, that just got in an accident. So first get out of your truck and tell the other person, don't you fucking move! Stay still! I'm gonna go get the explosives off my trailer! And you stay right the fuck there! That's what? What? Holy shit! And like I was saying earlier, for there to be a requirement for you to placard your truck, there has to be 2,000 pounds of that material. So, hold on, I gotta go get 2,000 pounds of explosives off my truck. So don't you move. Nope, 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 nope. I don't accept this answer. I completely reject this answer, straight up. That's insane. That is insane. You need to refuel your vehicle while transporting hazardous material. You must Remain at the fuel nozzle. That's always true. Leave the engine running. Hell nah. Get an attendant to pump your fuel. Look, they don't even do that for you in New Jersey. Like four-wheelers, they get the luxury of having a gas station attendant come pump their fuel. But not truck drivers. You're responsible. Uncouple the trailer and leave it somewhere else. Remain at the fuel nozzle. Okay, thank you. While pumping your fuel, be sure that you always remain at the nozzle where you can control the flow of fuel. Be sure that your engine is off, before doing so. Okay, let's see if I passed. 67%. 20 correct, 10 incorrect. That's 66%. I reject this whole freaking. You need to score 80% or higher to pass this Texas DMV practice test. DPS! This website is just bunk. CDLpracticetest.com. We've added the 10 questions you missed. We have added the 10 questions you missed to your missed question bank, so you can review later. That makes 21 total questions you have answered incorrectly so far. I also took a general knowledge test, so that's where the other 11 are coming from. Eight of the questions that I got wrong, no, 7 of the questions that I got wrong, I completely accept, and I recognize now why I was wrong. Because I reached a point of understanding. The other 3, I don't think so, buddy. The truck driver is absolutely not supposed to freaking remove all the explosives from the trailer before they can move whenever there's an accident. That wouldn't even make any kind of logical sense. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if it can be explained to me in a way that shows me I'm wrong, I'll accept it. But right now, that just seems so ludicrous. It's hard to even imagine. I don't know. Thankfully, I'm not going for a hazmat license. I just wanted to do that for fun, to see how much of that information I retained. And I feel like a lot. I feel like I did pretty well, especially with the explanations for why the right answer is the right answer. I don't know. like I said at the beginning of this stream, I'm not going to go take any more tests at the DPS until Monday. So over the weekend, I'll do some more practice tests and I'll stream them. I won't wear this hat because it's a lot. And I won't wear headphones either. I had them in because I thought maybe I might watch something, but I didn't. So I guess I just had these in for no good reason. I guess I kind of protected my own ears when I started screaming, so I don't know. But peace out.